You have tried things, not half-heartedly, not lazily. You have actually tried. You have sat with the journal and written the pages. You have downloaded the meditation app and used it, at least for a while. You have done the tapping, the breath work, the affirmations in the mirror that felt a little ridiculous, but you did them anyway, because you wanted it to work. You have read the books, taken the courses, maybe even sat across from a therapist and done the honest, uncomfortable work of looking at yourself clearly. And something always shifts for a little while. There is a week, maybe two, where something feels lighter, where you think, this is it. This is the thing that is finally going to change me. And then life happens, or the habit slips, or the feeling fades, and you are back. Not exactly where you started, but not where you thought you would be by now. And somewhere in the quiet, when you are honest with yourself, a thought surfaces that you probably do not say out loud. Maybe the problem is me. We are going to spend the next few minutes dismantling that thought completely. Not with encouragement, not with a pep talk, with an actual explanation. Because what has been missing is not effort. It is not commitment. It is not belief. What has been missing is understanding. And that changes today. Here's the first thing we need to establish clearly. Every tool you have ever tried works. Journaling works, meditation works, breathwork works, somatic tapping works, therapy works. These are not ineffective things. They are backed by real research, and they produce real results in real people. So why have they not produced the results you needed? Because a tool can only work at the level it is designed to reach. And most of the tools available in mainstream wellness culture are designed to work at the surface level of your experience. They work with your thoughts, with your breath, with your conscious attention. They are designed to create relief, to create moments of clarity, to regulate your state in the moment you are practicing them. What they are not designed to do, and what none of them were ever marketed to do, is change the underlying system that generates the thoughts, the patterns, the emotional responses, the behaviors you keep returning to regardless of how many times you have tried to redirect them. Imagine you have a pipe that is leaking inside a wall, and every morning you come out and you mop up the water on the floor. You are not wrong to mop the floor. The floor needs mopping, but the pipe is still leaking. And until someone opens the wall and actually looks at the pipe, you will be mopping that floor every single morning for the rest of your life. The tools you have been using are the mop, and what we are going to do here is teach you how to find the pipe. Let us talk about why this happens, why the tools stay at the surface, why no one ever pointed you toward the deeper layer. The answer is not sinister, it is structural. Most wellness content, most self-help, most even therapeutic modalities in their mainstream form are built around doing, around practices, around techniques, around interventions that you apply to the symptoms of a struggling inner life, because symptoms are visible, symptoms are what you bring to the conversation, and symptoms are what most frameworks are built to address. But underneath the symptoms is a system, and that system has a logic. It has a structure. It was built piece by piece from your earliest experiences, your environment, your relationships, your nervous system's learned responses to the world around you. It runs according to rules that were written long before you were old enough to examine them. And it does not change because you breathe differently for 10 minutes a day, or write your feelings in a notebook. It changes when you understand it. That is the entire premise of psychoeducation. Not doing something different, understanding something more deeply. Because genuine understanding, the kind that lands in your body, not just your mind, is itself the intervention. It is not the precursor to change. It is the mechanism of change. When you understand why you do something, truly understand it at the level of how it was formed and what function it is serving, the grip it has on you is never quite the same again. You cannot unsee a pattern once you have seen it clearly. You cannot keep running an unconscious program with the same efficiency once it has been brought into the light. Understanding is not passive. It is one of the most powerful things a human being can do. We want to name something that happens to a lot of women at this point in the conversation because it might be happening to you right now. A small, quiet voice that says, "But I do understand myself. I have been in therapy. I have done the inner work. I know where my patterns come from." And that might be completely true. Knowing where something comes from is real and valuable knowledge. But there is a difference between knowing the origin of a pattern and understanding the mechanism of it. Understanding how it lives in your nervous system right now. Understanding what triggers it, what maintains it, what your system is actually trying to protect you from when it fires. Understanding what conditions allow it to shift, and what you have been inadvertently doing that keeps it in place. Origin is the history. Mechanism is the architecture. And you can know the history of a building without understanding anything about how it was built or how to change its structure. This is not a criticism. This is a distinction that most frameworks never offer. And it is the distinction that makes the difference. So what does this actually look like in practice? What changes when psychoeducation becomes the foundation? It starts with relief. Genuine relief. The kind that comes from finally having an explanation that matches your actual experience. Not an explanation that tells you to try harder or believe more. An explanation that says, of course, this has been difficult. Here is exactly why. Here is the system you have been working with. Here is what it actually needed that it was not getting. That relief is not small. For a lot of women, it is the first moment in years where the narrative shifts from something is wrong with me to something was missing from my understanding. And those two things produce completely different futures. From there, the tools you already know how to use begin to work differently. Not because the tools changed, because you changed your relationship to them. You begin to use them with understanding. You begin to direct them toward the right layer. The journaling stops being a place to describe your feelings and becomes a place to examine your patterns. The breath work stops being something you do to calm down and becomes something you do to consciously communicate safety to a nervous system that has been braced for a very long time. Same tools, completely different depth of impact. This channel exists because this layer of understanding is not optional. It is not advanced material for people who have already done the basics. It is the foundation. It is what makes everything else work. And it has been largely absent from the spaces millennial women have had access to. Not because the research does not exist, it does. Not because the science is too complex to translate, it is not. But because the wellness industry is largely built around products and practices, around selling you the next tool, and teaching you to understand your own system does not require you to buy anything new. It requires you to learn something real. That is what we are here to do. Every video on this channel adds one more piece of genuine understanding to your foundation, one more part of the system made visible, one more place where the pattern loses its invisibility and therefore loses some of its power. You do not need another thing to try. What has happened makes sense. The effort was never the problem. The layer was. And now you know where to look.